Yes, ma'am.
So we'll start with this is the fourth unit, interest rate markets. So here we are going to study different types of interest rates. Then how do you calculate zero rates, bond rates, forward rates. So it is all about interest rate. So if I have to enter into a forward rate agreement, how do I calculate the interest rate and how it works? All those we will understand through sums. First we'll go through a little bit of theory. What is interest rate? Interest rates are a factor in the valuation of virtually all derivatives. So if you remember, when we did sums on futures and calculation of future value, we use the formula F naught is equals to S naught e raised to RT. That R is the rate. So in all the derivatives calculation, that R, that is the interest rate, is very, very important. Without which you cannot value or find the value of a derivative instrument. An interest rate in a particular situation defines the amount of money a borrower promises to pay the lender. So here we are getting to know how much money as a form of interest a borrower has to pay to the lender. The interest rate applicable in a situation depends on the credit risk. Now, if the loan is very risky, the interest rate will be very high. But if the loan is less risky, the interest rate will be low. For example, if you are taking a housing loan and you've kept your house as a collateral or a security, the interest rate will be comparatively low. Because if you don't pay, the bank can sell your house and recover the money. But on the other hand, if you're taking a personal loan, you just have a guarantor, no collateral, no security. The interest rate there will be a little high because personal loans are more or a bit more riskier than the housing loans. So it depends on the credit risk. How much risky the loan is, that much high the interest will be charged by the banker or any lender. The higher the credit risk, the higher the interest rate that is promised by the borrower. The three major types of rates which we need to understand while we're doing derivatives, that is treasury rate, LIBOR rate, and repo rate. Treasury rates are the rate an investor earns on treasury bill and treasury bonds. So treasury bill and treasury bonds are basically those which are issued by the government, and whatever interest rate is charged on these bills and bonds, we call it as treasury rates. These are the instruments used by a government to borrow in its own currency. So in India, Indian government can issue treasury bonds, general public can buy it, and they can pay money to the government. So government uses these bills and bonds to borrow money from the public. Treasury rates are therefore totally risk-free rates in the sense that an investor who buys a treasury bill is certain that the interest and principal payment will be made as promised. Now, how do we call them as risk-free rates? Because these bills or bonds are backed by the government of a particular country. Now, the government won't collapse overnight. And even if it collapses, this government will go, the other government will come. The bills, the bonds will remain as it is, and the new government will have to oblige. So, here the risk is negligible because a country's government has guaranteed you to pay the interest and your principal amount back. So whatever money you're giving to the government and whatever interest you earn on that, we call those interest rates as treasury rates. And these are risk-free rates because the government is backing these particular bonds and bills. Derivative traders do not use treasury rates, but they use the LIBOR rates. Treasury rates are risk-free rates, which more so derivatives market doesn't use it. They use the LIBOR rate. That is nothing but the floating rate, which keeps changing depending on the demand and supply of the loans. So what are LIBOR rates? LIBOR is London Interbank Offer Rate. A LIBOR quote by a bank is the rate of interest at which the bank is prepared to make a large wholesale deposit with other banks. Here, one bank is ready to give loan to the other bank. So this LIBOR rate works in that particular condition. So a deposit with a bank can be regarded as a loan to the bank. So if I am suppose SBI is depositing money with Union Bank. So when SBI is giving money to Union Bank as deposits, it is treated as loan. SBI is giving loan to Union Bank. And whatever rate SBI will charge on that, we call that as LIBOR rate. Usually it happens in international markets where banks of different countries trade into it. So here I'm telling SBI, Union Bank, that might not be the case. It can be SBI and maybe Citibank or any foreign bank. Okay. Large banks also quote LIBID, that is London Interbank Bid Rate, and it is the rate at which they will accept deposits from other banks. So here you are basically bidding. Okay, so they can also quote the rate. That means they are bidding the rate at what rate they are ready to accept deposit from other banks. Now this happens when the other bank has huge money. So suppose SBI has huge money and nobody is borrowing, and SBI wants to deposit it somewhere and earn something. In that case, Union Bank can bid and it can say, see, I'm ready to take your deposits, but at this rate. So that is bidding rate. Like in the stock market, we bid for IPO. When I want shares of a particular company, I bid, and then if it is allotted, it is allotted at that bidding price. Same way here, the interest rates are bidded. If SBI feels that this rate is sufficient, then they will deposit that money in Union Bank. Otherwise, they will search for some other bank. So London Interbank Offer Rate is nothing but a rate where one bank can deposit a sum of money into other bank. In turn, the other bank will take it like a loan and pay interest on time to time. And usually these are done in the international markets. Okay, the next is repo rates. What is repo rates? Am I audible to all of you? Any disturbance, anything?
No, ma'am.
And if you have any doubts, you can ask. Repo rate. Sometimes trading activities are funded with a repo or a repurchase agreement. Now here itself, repo means repurchase. Okay, so sometimes your activities are funded with a repurchase agreement. What is this repurchase agreement? This is a contract where an investment dealer who owns securities agrees to sell them to another company now and buy them back later at a slightly higher price. Let us take example and understand this. Suppose I have Infosys shares today and I am in need of money. Suppose that Infosys shares I have bought for 1500 rupees. Now I want money right now because I am in need of that, and later I'm going to get money. That time I can repay. So what I'll do is, instead of going and asking for loans, I'll go to Vishal and tell him, Vishal, I have Infosys shares and I will sell it today to you for 1300 rupees. You give me money and I promise to buy them back after 6 months at 1350. So how much is Vishal earning? I'm selling him for 1300 and I will buy back from him for 1350. So what is Vishal's gain?
50.
50. That 50 rupees is the interest that Vishal is earning on the repurchase agreement. Just see, it's an agreement between me and Vishal where I have agreed to sell today with a promise to repurchase at a later date and pay a higher price. That higher price which I am paying is the interest that Vishal is earning. Is that clear? Understood the concept with the example?
Yes, ma'am.
So there is a contract where an investment dealer who owns securities agrees to sell them to another company now and buy them back later at a slightly higher price. The other company is providing loan to the dealer. So here Vishal is providing loan to me by buying my Infosys shares. The difference between the price at which the securities are sold and the price at which they are repurchased is the interest. So the difference between 1300 and 1350, 50 rupees is the interest that Vishal will get. This interest rate is referred to as repo rate. The most common type of repo is the overnight repo, in which the agreement is renegotiated each day. However, long-term arrangements known as term repos are sometimes used. So usually people use overnight repos. That means I'm selling it to Vishal today and I promise to buy it from him tomorrow for 1350. Suppose I fail to buy, then tomorrow again we will renegotiate the rate. So tomorrow if I don't buy, I'll tell him, Vishal, keep it for one more day. I will buy it from you for 1370. So the new rate is decided, and again overnight he's keeping. So usually repos are done overnight, and these are basically done by huge financial institutions and banks. So they need money immediately, and next day they can repay such kind of adjustments. And sometimes you have little longer arrangements of repo also. Those are called as term repos because they're long term, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year. So we call them as term repos. All these three are important because it can be asked as a theory question. So, what is treasury rate? It is a rate which is issued or which is given for government bonds and government bills. It's a risk free rate because the government is backing it, and it is basically you earn on when you buy bonds or bills from the government. What is LIBOR rate? It is London Interbank Offer Rate, where one bank makes huge deposits into other bank, and the other bank has to pay interest. So it is like one bank is giving loan to other bank, in turn receiving interest. Repo rate is repurchase agreement. You sell something today at a price and promise to repurchase it later at a higher price. So difference between the two prices is the interest rate, which is called as repo rate. Okay. I hope it's clear till here. Let's go to how to measure interest rates. Measuring interest rates. The compounding frequency used for an interest rate is the unit of measurement. So when you're measuring interest rates, it basically has a compounding frequency. How fast, I mean, the rate is getting compounded, whether the compounding is yearly, half yearly, quarterly, monthly, daily. So interest rates are measured depending on the compounding frequency. The difference between quarterly and annual compounding is analogous to the difference between miles and kilometers. So quarterly and annual compounding is same like miles and kilometers. So if somebody tells you I have traveled 10 kilometers or somebody tells you I have traveled 1 mile, so it's similar kind. The interest rate will change little bit if you get quarterly compounding because it's getting compounded 4 times in a year, and if it is annual compounding it gets compounded only once in a year. So the very first thing that we'll understand is what is a zero rate. Can anybody tell me, have you ever heard about it? What is a zero rate? Is there any bond with a zero rate? Have you heard about it?
No, ma'am.
There are zero rate bonds. How these kind of bonds work? Here we don't specify the interest rate. So that's why they're called zero rate. It is like you, suppose I'm selling a bond for 100 rupees. The face value of the bond is 100 rupees, but while selling it, I sell it to you for 80 rupees. So a bond of 100 you're buying for 80, and you keep it with you for 2 years. After 2 years, you give me back the bond and I'll give you 100 rupees full. So you bought the bond at a discounted price, 80 rupees, and you sold it at the face value, 100 rupees. So you gained 20 rupees on that bond. That 20 rupees is your gain. So in that bond, interest rate was not mentioned. You are not going to get fixed interest for 2 years, but you're going to get that 20 rupees from 80 to 100 that you sell on per bond. That's what is called as zero rates. A zero rate for maturity T is the rate of interest earned on an investment that provides a payoff only at time T. So you're basically going to get the payoff only at time T. Suppose a 5 year zero rate is quoted at 5%. So here it's a 5 year zero rate bond. Okay. Suppose we say that it is quoted at 5%. So how do you find the value of that particular bond? $100 is the loan or the bond value into e raised to RT. R is 0.05, T is 5 years. So it is 128.40. So if I have to sell this bond today, its face value should be somewhere around 128, and I can sell it for 100. So that 28 rupees difference will be the zero rate. Any doubts till there?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Now the next part, bond pricing and bond yield
No, ma'am.
and par yield. Okay. The next part, we will discuss it in the next class, because here I have to basically do sums along with this. So this one slide I'm leaving, we're going to the next slide, that is forward rate. Today we'll do sums on forward rate. What is the forward rate? The forward rate is the future zero rates. What would be the future interest rate if we find? We call it as future zero rate. Okay, implied by today's term structure of interest rate. So whatever is the rate today, depending on that, we are finding the future rate, that is called as forward rates. To calculate the forward rates, this is the formula. In general, if R1 and R2 are zero rates for maturity T1 and T2, RF is the forward interest rate for the period time between T1 and T2. So here we'll find RF. RF is the forward rate. R2 is time 2 rate. T2 is time 2 minus R1 into T1, that is today's rate into today's time, divided by future time minus today's time. So I'm going to use this formula. There are two formulas, but we'll use this one when we do our sums. So let us start doing the sums for forward rates today. Okay. Just see, this is a formula. Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
We are going to use this formula and solve the sums. This is a very easy sum, and it comes usually for 7 marks or 10 marks in the exam. So it's like gaining marks by doing few simple steps. So here we have to find forward rate from the following data. Calculate the forward rate for the second, third, fourth, and fifth year. So we will first find RF for second year. Okay, just see, they have not told you to find it for first year, because before first year there is nothing, there is no zero. So we need something before, so that should be T1 and T2, like that. Okay, now for RF for second year, here I hope all of you are listening to me. I'm considering this as time 2 and the previous year as time 1. Okay, so this will become rate 2 and this will become rate 1. Are you getting the logic? We are doing it for second year. So second year is time 2, previous year is time 1. And second year rate is rate 2 and previous year rate is rate 1. Is that fine?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's put it in the formula now. R2. What is the R2 rate? 13% into T2. T2 is second year minus R1. R1 is 12% into T1 is first year. Okay, this is our numerator, divided by the denominator is T2 minus T1. T2 is second year minus T1 is first year. So 2 minus 1. Anybody can solve this? 13 into 2, you get 26% minus 12%. 12 into 1 is 12%. Divided by 2 minus 1 is 1. So 26 minus 12. RF is 14%. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
These sums are very easy. You have to simply go on doing it in the same manner. Let's do, now they have told you to do it for second, third, fourth, and fifth year. So let's do it for third year now. I'm finding RF for third year. Okay. Now listen to me. We are doing RF for third year. So for third year, This is T2 and second year will become T1. Are you getting it?
Yes, ma'am.
Then third year is R2 and second year will become R1. Okay, now let's put it in the formula. R2 is 13.7% into T2 is the third year minus R1 is 13% into T1 is the second year, the whole divided by T2 that is third year minus T1 that is second year. So RF for third year will be equal to 13.7 into 3, which is 41.1% minus 13 into 2, which is 26% divided by 1. So 41.1 minus 26. You get
15.1, ma'am.
RF for third year is 15.1%. So what I am trying to tell you is, whichever year they ask you to do, if they ask you to do for third year will become T2 and the previous year will become T1. Now if they ask me to do for fourth year will become T2 and third year will become T1. So the current year is T2 and the previous year is T1. Same way the current rate is T2 and the previous rate is T1. Now for fourth year, for me the any doubts? Fourth year is T2 and third year will become T1. And here fourth year is R2 and third year will become R1. Okay, so now we have to find RF for fourth year. So here R2 is 14.2% into fourth year is T2 minus R1 is 13.7% into third year is T1, the whole divided by fourth year minus third year, that is T2 minus T1. So we are going to find the rate. Anybody can tell me RF for fourth year?
15.7, ma'am.
Yes, 15.7%. So this was for fourth year. Similarly, we'll do it for fifth year. RF for fifth year will be the T2 and fourth year will become T1 now. Similarly, fifth year rate will become R2 and fourth year will become R1. So fifth year rate RF for fifth year is equal to 14.5% into 5 years minus fourth year value, that is 14.2% into fourth year, that is 4, the whole divided by fifth year minus fourth year, so 5 minus 4. So put it in the formula. RF for fifth year will be equal to 14.5 into 5 minus 14.2 into 4. Again you get 15.7.
15.7, ma'am.
So these are the forward rates. For the second year, it is 14%. See, second year, they've already given you the zero rate. What we have found is forward rate. So for second year, zero rate was 13%. Forward rate you have found is 14%. Same way for third year, zero rate was 13.7. Forward rate you have found as 15.1. So here with forward rate, you're telling what would be the rate in the future. If this is the rate today, what would be the future rates or forward rates you can find by using this formula. Any doubts in the first problem?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Similar way we'll do the second sum. I'll do around 5 to 6 sums, but all are same pattern. So once you understand the basic formula, there is nothing technical. You need to just put the values correctly and find the forward rates. I'll just copy the formula. We'll do the second sum and we'll wind up for today. From the following data, calculate the forward rate for the second, third, fourth, and fifth year. So for the second year, this is T2, this is T1, R2, and R1. Okay, so RF is equals to, or RF for second year we're doing is equals to 4% into 2 minus 3% into 1, the whole divided by 2 second year minus first year. So 2 minus 1. So RF for second year. Let's see, anybody can solve it.
5, ma'am.
How much you get?
5.
5.
Yes, ma'am.
5%. 4 into 2 is 8 minus 3 into 1. So it is 3. 8 minus 3 is 5%. So RF for second year is 5% is what you are got. Okay, similarly, now we'll do RF for third year. Is equal to, so third year will become T2 and second year will become T1. Same way, third year will become R2 and second year will become R1. So now I have to do 4.6 into 3. 4.6% is the rate of the third year into the third year minus the second year rate and the second year. The second year rate was 4% into 2 years because it's the second year. The whole divided by 3 minus 2, third year minus second year. So 4.6 into 3, you get 13.8 minus 8%, 5.8.
Yes, ma'am.
5.8%, ma'am.
5.8. Similarly, we'll do RF for fourth year. Fourth year will become T2 and third year will become T1. Same way, fourth year will become R2. Here, third year will become R1. So today 5% into 4 minus the third year rate is 4.6% into third year, the whole divided by fourth year minus third year. So 4 minus 3. So RF for fourth year is equals to
6.2%, ma'am.
6.2. 5 4s are 20, 20% minus 13.8, you will get 6.2%. Last we'll do rest for fifth year. This is T2. Fourth year will become T1. Fifth year rate will become R2. And fourth year rate will become R1. So 5.3 into 5, 5.3% into 5, that is fifth year, minus fourth year rate was 5% into 4, the whole divided by fifth year minus fourth year, so 5 minus 4.
6.5%, ma'am.
6.5. Okay, I hope the problem was clear and there are no doubts. We have done 2 sums, we'll do some more in the next classes, around 5 to 6 sums. If you want, you can also practice it and come up with the answers in the next class. But if this comes, it will come for 7 marks. So it's an easy problem, just a formula, and you should correctly know which is R2, R1. Remember, whichever year they tell you, that year is R2 and previous year is R1. So if they tell you third year is R2, second year will become R1. So that logic, if you remember, it's very easy to solve. Okay. Any doubts you can ask. If there are no doubts, you can put your USN numbers in the chat box and leave the meeting. Anybody having any doubts?
No, ma'am.
If no doubts, you can leave the meeting after typing your USN numbers.